I'm a 3D artist, and in this video, I redesigned the most famous bosses from Terraria in 3D. What I made in this episode was absolutely insane. You'll see what I mean. People usually describe Terraria as a 2D version of Minecraft, but it's actually a bit more unique than that. Some of the characters and enemies in the game have become iconic for one reason or another, and it's received a lot of attention over the years. But one of the coolest parts of the game is the bosses, of which there are 31 compared to Minecraft's 2. The first boss players fight, and probably the most famous as well, is the Eye of Cthulhu. It has two main forms. One is a giant eyeball, the other... Step 1 is to make a circle shape. Now, circle shapes can be done a lot of different ways in pixelated styles, but I'm gonna just apprehend the shape from the Elder Guardian for the sake of simplicity. The main shape is really that simple, besides the veins in the back, which is gonna have to be carried by the texturing. I used a gray base color and obtained the other colors from the original to finish out the texture. For the veins, I made one texture and reused it across 4 faces, something that Minecraft does for the plants and the crops, which I think works pretty well here. It looks fantastic in a really horrible way, but there's a second form I haven't done yet. It has teeth, so there has to be a jaw mechanism for it to look right. I also made a tiny version of the eye because in the actual game, the eye shoots out little minions that chase the player around as one of its attacks. Finally, I added the teeth, and both forms are now complete. I think it's a good blend of the two styles, and I'm really happy with how these turned out. But the next boss I redesigned was on a completely different level. For context, Terraria spreads out the pace of the boss fights really well. A new player wouldn't be able to fight a really hard boss early on because the game is split into 2 stages. Pre-hard mode is a lot easier, allowing the player some time to get going, but also restricts access to some of the best stuff. And then there's hard mode. A big virus starts eating away at the world, bosses are bigger and much stronger, better items exist, but they are harder to obtain. There's also a pink unicorn area with an RGB gaming slime. You can't just change the difficulty at will like in the other block game. In this game, you have to go to the nether, beat this thing, get this doll, beat this meat. Since both new and experienced people are playing, it's actually pretty smart to set it up this way. And speaking of smart, real quickly guys, this video is partnered with Brilliant, the one-stop shop for picking up skills like geometry, cryptocurrency, and much more. Brilliant is a practical learning service, meaning they build in ways for you to actively participate instead of just passively watching a video for education. That would be dumb. The last courses I went through on there were the machine learning and statistics courses, but there's over 60 others for you to choose from. All of the content is very well put together. I like how they prioritize learning and not just memorizing things, because that's basically my high school experience. They even give you these daily challenges to help you with what you're learning, so if you have interest in STEM topics, geometry, science like me, or if you just forgot everything from classes you took probably less than 2 years ago, like me, then this would be a great place to expand and review those skills. So to get started with that, go to brilliant.org/DanielCraft to sign up for free, and also the first 200 people to sign up using that link will get 20% off the annual premium version. Definitely go check that out, but let's get back to Terraria. There's over 30 bosses in this game, and all of them are pretty unique. You've got Bowser Jr.'s ship, you've got Santa tank, but one of the more famous ones is Skeletron. It's a giant skull with 2 massive floating arms that can only be summoned by talking to the old man guarding the dungeon. Turns out he is the old man guarding the dungeon who turns into this giant skeleton, chases the players around.
I like it, cut G.
The arms can be destroyed independently, but only the head is necessary to bring the whole thing down. And he also has baby versions, because why would he not? First we make the skull, which is 2 pieces so the jaw can open and close. It's tough to decide how the bones themselves should be made. They could be more detailed or even as simple as just 1 cube. I tried a few different ways but settled on having 1 cube carried by the texture. After this I made the hands, which are a lot more detailed as they would probably move around a lot. And next it's time for the texturing. I lifted colors pretty much entirely from the original Skeletron and translated the design as close as I could. The only difference is I used the same resolution as Minecraft. Overall it's looking pretty close to how I imagined, but I also made a mini version that could fly around in bulks, chasing players and causing general mayhem. I think making Skeletron in 3D would allow for much more dynamic fights instead of just waving his arms around. I mean, just think of the possibilities. Alright, well that's as crazy as it gets. I should really go to sleep. Skeletron Prime. He's one of 3 mechanical bosses, which are souped up versions of easier ones. He's got 4 arms this time, but instead of hands, he's got a laser, a cannon, a vice, and a saw. First I duplicate the arms, then I start changing the textures up. I'll use an iron block as the base texture and manually paint on anything that's different from the original. Next I made all the little weapons, then I texture those too, and then the most important part is to make sure the eyes glow, because there's a certain funny skeleton with a funny song I can use. If everything from Terraria went to Minecraft, the game would be like 10 times larger, so I don't think that would happen anytime soon. But I imagine if Skeletron Prime was in Minecraft, it would be a nice, pretty casual boss fight. And by casual, I mean... Thankfully, that's as crazy as it gets, and I can go to sleep now. Please tell me there isn't more. I don't want to do this anymore.